What's up, guys? You're listening to the Zack Scriven podcast and Intellic podcast.
What's up, gang? Walker D.
Intellic podcast. Intellicast.
The Intellicast. This is number 3? Number 4?
No, this is actually number 5 or 6 because I've been posting your drive cars as part of the podcast.
Ah, nice.
So anyways, we're here at the CSIA conference in beautiful Asheville, North Carolina. In fact, I could probably put some drone footage in here.
Right here would be a great spot. And in fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a picture of our view, and I'll even send that to you, Zach.
Yeah, it would, honestly, I mean, it's freaking beautiful, like the mountains, the trees, downtown Asheville. Just the lighting is not good going that back way, but podcast is more about what we're talking about and less about what you're seeing. So
excellent.
Why don't we talk about what we're going to talk about in this podcast?
So this is really our opening salvo. So for those of you that don't know, the CSIA Executive Leadership Conference is a conference that's put on by the Control Systems Integrators Association. They invite all their members to come to the executive conference every year. There's basically 3 things that you do when you come to the conference. Number 1, attending the keynote is a must. Every year there is an economic analysis that's given both for the overall U.S. economy and for systems integration in general, including forecasts for how much money manufacturers plan on spending on CapEx in the next 12 months. Are they going to do any hiring? Are they not going to do hiring? So that's number 1. Number 2, there are sessions that go over emerging technologies, recommendations for how you should change your business, best practices, etc. There are a lot of small groups. This is a great conference to get together with other integrators and share ideas, to make friends. So they actually have formal groups called small groups that you get in. It's 4 or 5 integrators that work together throughout the year, just picking each other's brains, that kind of stuff. So those groups meet during the executive conference. And then the last thing is there's a big poster session every year where software developers or software manufacturers, hardware manufacturers are coming and peddling their new wares. And this is really the best conference for that because it's really geared towards systems integrators only. And this is the only conference of the year where the target audience is systems integrators. So it's incredibly invaluable. My ultimate goal here this year is to our business model at Intellic Integration is really led. We're operating ahead of the curve in systems integration, and I want to see just how far the rest of the pack has caught up.
Right.
We've invested a lot of time in this marketing and trying to educate the pace.
How much we can help them catch up, because that's ultimately our goal, is to help educate the market, help bring it forward.
Right.
And
I want to see, but we can only do so much with our content. We can only get so many people to come along and change the way that they think, adopt digitally transformative methodologies. And so we really need CSIA to lead here. And I want to see, one of my goals here is to see, are they going to lead? And by that I mean, are they going to implore systems integrators to move from a 3.0 way of thinking to a 4.0 way of thinking? Based on our initial conversations so far, I'm feeling fairly confident that Jose tomorrow is going to be advocating for adopting business practices that are very, very similar to what we're already doing in the market.
Yeah, and we're going to do a follow-up podcast after the event. I mean, today's just registration. We're going to do a follow-up podcast, which we'll link down below to get our thoughts after the event. But so far, my first impression is really excited that they, working with Zack Scriven Media as an official member of the media, I got a, media badge. And so that to me shows that they are more forward thinking, adopting new media. And also, I was actually reached out to be on the CSIA Talking Industrial Automation podcast. So Lisa Richter, thank you. And
so why don't you tell us about that? How did that go this morning?
Oh, it went really well. We just shot it up on the president's room, and I had my camera all set out, and Lisa was like, oh my gosh, I didn't know we were doing video. She came out like in a Led Zeppelin shirt. So anyways, I angled the camera so it was just on me, and we kind of sat across from each other, which was cool. She had a script.
So their podcast is audio only?
Yep.
Okay.
And which is good. I think that's truly the nature of the podcast. I like doing video because I built my brand around video, but so it was really good. She had really great questions about not only like my background, but like like what are skills that entrepreneurs need to be out on their own? How can system integrators kind of change the way they think about marketing? How can system integrators attract and retain top talent? Kind of all pointing back. A lot of the answers were pointing back to authenticity, transparency, stuff that is really crucial in the digital age, because it's not just digital transformation of industry, it's digital transformation of self, digital transformation of communications and marketing.
And the changing demography of the workforce is really what's driving that, right? Young millennials in general, and the generation right after millennials are really, they want to be part of something bigger than just a job. They don't just want a career, they want to be part of a movement, and transparency and authenticity play right into those desires. And the reality is, just within the next 5 to 10 years, it's millennials that are going to be ultimately driving the market. I mean, really driving the market in systems integration specifically.
So why don't you, Walker, since you've been here before, share what are some of the things that you've liked in the past conferences?
So this is my 4th executive conference. I would say that my favorite part of the executive conference really is the fellowship with the rest of the community. I mean, if you're attending CSIA, then it means you're a leader in the space. I mean, just pure and simple. A lot of people will ask me, is it worth it to join the organization? Should you go through the certification process? If you are a member of CSIA, how much should you leverage their best practices? And my answer to that is always a function of the values that your organization is built on, number one. But what I've learned at CSIA and what stands out to me at CSIA is that when you come to the Executive Leadership Conference, you get a firsthand look at who the leaders in our organization are, because the best practices that are written in CSIA, the way that the conference is structured, even the sessions, both the tech sessions and the workshops that are offered, are driven by systems integrators. Right. This isn't like Jose, who is the president of CSIA, is setting the agenda. It is literally the SI community that is setting the agenda. And so I get a great opportunity to see who those actual leaders are. So when we're evaluating systems integration, whether that's other systems integrators or we're evaluating best practices within the industry, people will ask me, well, how do you know that you have evaluated systems integration globally? And my answer is, because I go to CSIA Executive Leadership every year. I know who the decision makers are. I talk to them face to face, and I get to hear their thoughts and ideas on how to move forward. And
maybe this year we might also be able to share some of those thoughts and ideas with the community, with the podcast.
Right.
Who are some of those people that you'd want to talk to and collaborate with this year at the conference? Some of those leaders. Yeah,
so there are several of them. There are several people that I would love to talk to. And Zach, while we were driving up here, Zach asked, if you were going to talk to anyone, man, who's the one person you would want to have a conversation with on camera? And my answer was, Titus Crabb, probably from Vertec, because I believe that of all the systems integrators in the United States, Vertec has the greatest capability of being a leader in Industry 4.0, like Intellic Integration is. They in terms of the values the organization is built on, but also the way that he's constructed the business, and the fact that he already understands being a leader in the industry is important. Right. Not every systems integrator thinks that way, and I would love to pick his brain.
I mean, I can definitely attest to that, having worked there in the past. That they are, they really do have kind of a core mission and core values that they don't just sit on the hiring sheet, like it actually is on their. It's actually when you go in the urinal, like you actually see it right there. It's everywhere. So they really do mean it, and I do think they are a leader in the space. So I think that would be cool, something to do.
I would say the other thing that I really enjoy about the conference is the keynote. I mean, the keynote is so critical. It's so important. I mean, it literally is it is the projections for the industry for the next 12 months. And if you're a systems integrator, how you aren't at least listening to that. Listening to the keynote every single year is just beyond me. I mean, I don't know how you could make, I don't know how you can do your forecasting without the information. It's so critical. Let me ask you a question. So this is your first CSIA?
Correct, yeah.
Walk me through the process. How who reached out to you?
Oh, man.
How did you end up
It's always a blur to me. I really don't. I literally just. I feel like sometimes I just show up in South Africa. I'm like, how the heck did I even like make this happen?
Right.
As a lot of it's inbound. A lot of it is strategic engagement. So I'll go engage on the CSIA community, the CSIA group on LinkedIn. I will comment on Lisa's. She'll share a podcast link. I'll comment on it. Just kind of gets you up and fresh in their minds. And then, I think I reached out to Jose on a LinkedIn message or a DM. We got on the phone, and he said, the media, like each representative of the media gets one free badge. So like if Automation World or some of the other ones are
Controls
here,
Engineering,
they'll get one free badge, but they might bring a team of people. So for me, one is all I needed. I'm like, that's perfect. And then working with a couple sponsors. So we have a new sponsor this conference, the 4.0 Solutions.
Excellent. Hey.
So we could talk about that in a second. And also Tatsoft with their main product being FactoryStudio. So very cool to be able to work with those companies and really help get their messaging out. And, like a few weeks ago, we had that little mishap with the Tossie Box sponsorship, but I still went out and made a video saying that, I still believe in Tossie Box as a product, even though the Tokyo trip sponsorship fell through, that I still believe in them and I'm still going to support them because I value my trust with my audience, with our audience, more than just being paid. And I think that is ultimately the value of influencer marketing.
Well, I also think it's important. There's a couple of things I want to point out. Number one, I am never sponsored. So Intellic Integration, 4.0 Solutions, we are never sponsored by any of the companies that we speak highly of. We do that so that we maintain our independence in the market. And you're only ever sponsored by companies that you already believe are best in class.
100%.
So you're not accepting sponsorships from companies that you do not consider best in class, have not used their products, all that kind of thing.
And I have been reached out to by kind of off-the-shelf kind of HMI applications or, and I do look at those products and I do appreciate them reaching out. But yeah, I'm only going to support products that I truly believe are best in class because otherwise I'm just a shill,
Right.
And
Exactly.
I don't want to be like, you guys know I'm truly authentic, even to my own demise sometimes.
What about Flow? Isn't Flow a sponsor for?
So Flow, it has not fully materialized yet, but they've been a long-time sponsor. So when Graham comes here, they're coming all the way from South Africa, so they kind of did use up their budget for this conference.
Yeah, can't even
but
imagine.
that's completely fine. So we might do something in some capacity elsewhere.
So one of the things that I'm most excited about is this will be the first conference where we have both inductive automation and Tatsoft marketing, sales, and technical representation here at the conference. So Tatsoft, FactoryStudio, and Ignition by Inductive Automation will both be here. In fact, IA again is sponsoring the
SI Community Cafe.
Yeah, the SI Community Cafe. Which
thank you, by the way, Inductive. We appreciate that.
Thank you very much. It's one of the best parts of the entire conference, actually, hanging out in there, and it's complimentary snacks and drinks, and everything's all decked out in inductive automation gear, and you can get water bottles and all that kind of stuff. And actually, the last couple of years, I think Bedrock Automation maybe co-sponsored it with them or something, because the last couple of years, Bedrock was in the cafe with them, but I didn't see Bedrock being set up in there as we walk through. So, what about you? What do you hope to learn from the conference this year, since it's your first?
I really want to start talking to some more system integrators. Hopefully, some that have kind of seen our content and kind of seen what we're doing. Maybe we've piqued their interest, but they just haven't quite taken that step yet to, maybe create their first video or maybe create a podcast or a video series. Vertec has started creating videos. Roger Larson, one of their rockstar engineers, started doing some videos around Seek Workbench, which I think is a great product, and I love that. I want to see more of that, but I want to see more so specifically from like the leadership of like owners of employees, like Jim Gavigan from Industrial Insights comes to mind, where he is on video telling his story of how he started the company, what his values are.
I had a great Zoom call with Jim at the beginning of last week. It was the first time I had ever had a call with him. Outstanding guy. One of his developers was on the call.
Awesome.
Definitely a visionary thinker. He I don't think he's kidding when he says that he's a time series guru. That's definitely his
time series storyteller.
Yes, time series storyteller. He is definitely that is definitely his bread and butter, is time series data, no doubt about it. Big OSI Pi. He's has a strong Pi background. Great guy, though. I truly enjoyed having that conversation. A couple of people I'm disappointed. It doesn't look like Corso's here. I don't think that they're a member of CSIA yet, but I would love to see Alex and Dave out here at the conference.
Which they're innovators in the video marketing space and just integration space in general.
Yep. Flexware Innovation's not here. I don't know. I don't think they're members either. Would love to see Flexware at the next conference, because I think that both of those companies have a voice, that they have a message, they have something to say, and I think this is the place where they should be saying it.
Yeah, so in summary, I want to see more. I want to talk to more companies, and even if it's not me helping them like as client, but like maybe just giving them some pointers of, or maybe being a guest on my podcast to help them kind of get started with storytelling and digital marketing. Because ultimately, I see that being not optional in the future,
So, what's new with you?
Yeah, man.
So outside of the conference, what do you have going on?
Oh, that's a great question. Yeah, man. I don't know. Not a whole lot, honestly. Like just
you still working on that?
Working on getting my first hire right now.
Okay.
A video editor, remote video editor. So that's pretty exciting.
Any good candidates pop up for you?
A lot of good candidates, actually. So I went on onlinejobs.ph. So looking at hiring in from the Philippines, which, it's Mary's half Filipino. And so it's kind of like a cultural thing for me. It's kind of like giving back to the homeland. It is, though, because it's not just like, that's the cheapest place you can get labor. While it is very affordable, I do feel like I'm building something bigger than myself and actually creating jobs and opportunity back home,
Right. Okay. You still doing that project in Colorado, right?
Yep. Still working with Hydrosonics.
Okay.
And that's going really well. And
what about that podcast we shot with, what's his name? Chris? Or
Marcus.
Marcus.
Yeah, that is still so they're going through some leadership transformation right now. So
getting release approval to.
Right. So. But they're actually looking at scaling up to like 8 systems a month. And
so for those of you that don't know, Zach's been working on a project in Colorado, where he's been supporting ignition development on these remote rigs, right? And it's a fascinating architecture. And myself, Zach, and Marcus, who is Zach's working for, who is his client, we did a
1 hour deep dive.
Yeah, 1 hour deep dive on the architecture, and it was I think it would be really valuable for the community to see that conversation, because we really get into the nuts and bolts of what open architecture is and what's possible, and just another way of peeling the onion. So
we did the whole GraphQL API layer interface, and
I think it'd be very valuable for the rest of the
we're gonna get it published,
community to see it. So.
What about you, man?
Well, there's been a lot going on, actually. So we just finished up a couple of major projects, and we kicked off a couple of major projects. We just came out with the latest release of the Canary Labs Chirp module at 4.0 Solutions. So literally just came out this morning. So the Ignition 8 support. So the module has been developed, and we now have Ignition 8 support for the Canary Labs connector. It's called Chirp. We can now consume historical data from Canary Labs and render it inside Easy Charts, Sparklines, and regular charts inside of Ignition. We've added a couple of API calls, so now you can call system.chirp.getData or any of the specific APIs we've developed. We have 3 or 4 new features coming in. We've just tested the system up to about 600,000 tags. So yeah, there's been a lot of great development.
What can we learn about the future of Canary Labs and FactoryStudio?
So hopefully, I'm trying to put Canary. Well, I'm not trying to. I've already done the introduction. So Tatsoft and FactoryStudio are looking at expanding the capabilities of their historian, and we're going to introduce them to Canary about potentially leveraging Canary Labs technology to do that. So that meeting will happen here at this conference. I know that they're already looking at influx data as a possible backend. So, but I think the Canary Labs Tatsoft FactoryStudio marriage is one made in heaven.
Awesome.
Both native.net, they're perfect for each other.
So just kind of touching back on FactoryStudio, what is the biggest advantage of FactoryStudio in your opinion?
Okay, so a lot of people ask me this. In fact, Troy Hussman asked me, "Hey, why do you use? Why not develop your own platform instead of using off-the-shelf software?" And for those of you that want to see that complete answer, you can just go to my personal LinkedIn page, and you'll be able to find my response to Troy. But basically, what I said is, we do have our own platform. It's in development. We have deployed it in the market in a couple of places. We do have products that we take to market, but we never look to compete with existing products that are already in the market. We only look to fill a vacuum. Mm-hmm. So in every application where Ignition and FactoryStudio work, we use them. So how do I decide between using Ignition or FactoryStudio? Number one, right now, FactoryStudio, all of the tags are project scope. They're not server scope. So that's going to be changing. That is part of the future release.
Ignition, they work across all the projects. They're part of the gateway resources.
With the exception of client tags, right? So client tags are project scope in Ignition, but in Ignition, you have one set of tags across all projects, and those are the gateway scope tags. FactoryStudio doesn't have that. So
Can you have multiple projects on a FactoryStudio server?
Yeah, you have hundreds of projects on a FactoryStudio, and it does scale to enterprise. It's just that those tags they're in their project scope, right?
Okay.
So that they're expanding to server scope tags here over the summer. So if I have to have tags that are being shared between multiple projects, not multiple clients, but multiple separate projects running, then I'm going to choose Ignition right now.
Okay.
If I need speed, that is, I need blistering responsive visual applications. That is, I want to see my visuals update many times per second as opposed to once per second or once every 5 seconds, then I have to go with FactoryStudio.
The screens load quickly.
They're blistering. The FactoryStudio is native.net, and it's native mobile. And
versus Ignition on Java?
Java Swing, right. So, and that people will ask, well, what about Perspective? Yes, Perspective is more responsive in Ignition than
responsive, meaning scalable, or responsive like quickness?
Speed. That is, so let's say I take a slider and I put it on the window, and I bind the value of that slider to a dial. In Ignition, if I do that in Java Swing, and I go from 0 to 100, I may see my dial go 0, 30, 60, 100. I don't see it transition up and down, right? Because it's redrawing. In Perspective in Ignition, I may see that do 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 80, 90, 100. In FactoryStudio, it is
continuous.
It is one tick resolution.
It's faster than you can move it.
Faster than you can move it. I mean, it's just so blistering fast. Also, if the developer I want to use is a .NET or C# developer, then I'm going to use FactoryStudio. The platforms are so similar. I mean, they're basically interchangeable. The only difference is right now FactoryStudio has an MQTT client and not an MQTT broker. So you have to use a separate broker with FactoryStudio right now. That's also changing this summer. But that doesn't keep me from using FactoryStudio. I mean, they're literally...
You could still use a Chariot SCADA broker.
Yeah, and the truth is we're probably going to move more towards using Chariot as opposed to even using the distributor inside of Ignition. We probably won't use Ignition as the broker a lot going forward. We're probably going to just use CirrusLink's native Chariot SCADA broker.
Awesome.
Yep. So this is what I'll say about FactoryStudio.
Well, I one of the things that I like that we're working with FactoryStudio is like getting the name out there, because like a lot of people that I know didn't necessarily know about it, or they don't know that it is, a best-in-class solution. I mean, look at see if it pulls focus there.
Well, it's amazing to me the number of people who have reached out to me and saying, man, I had never even heard of FactoryStudio until you mentioned it. And it is awesome. Holy cow. And
we were marketing before they even sponsored me.
Yeah, it's not. In fact, this is the first time they've ever sponsored you. But
so thank you, FactoryStudio.
And they've never sponsored me. We pick them.
Tatsoft?
Yeah, we pick them literally because they are a best-in-class solution. We're making our honest professional recommendation. So, to me, FactoryStudio and Ignition are interchangeable. but when I make the decision based on speed and where do I need my tags to live right now.
Okay.
Price is real close. FactoryStudio is a little less expensive than Ignition is, but it's not to the point where it's ever the decision.
Now, how is the mobile support on FactoryStudio?
It's all native. All of your applications are native mobile.
Okay, so you can run it on an iPhone app.
You can run it in your you can run it in a web browser. You can run it in a native FactoryStudio client launcher.
So you just have to run the server on
That's
Windows.
right. Or you can just go to URL. Yep.
Okay.
So you have multiple options on a FactoryStudio application, and as long as you turn them all on, then you can access it however you want to.
Very cool. What else do you want to talk about?
Well, let's talk about Canary Labs real quick.
Yeah.
So Canary's doing a pub crawl. So of all the events that I'm most excited about, Canary Labs is doing a pub crawl tomorrow night.
Pinball and...
Yeah, it's the pinball pub crawl, right? Here in Asheville, it's the event that I assume most people are going to want to attend. And I saw that Canary has sent the entire contingent, Don Mast, Sean Ebersol, Jeff Nepper, all those guys are here. So
wow.
There's a lot of people. About 30 people scheduled meetings with me. So I do have. When you said, "Hey, Walker's going to be at CSIA. If you guys want to talk to him, just reach out to him."
A lot of people responded.
Yeah, I think 28 people reached out. So I'm going to try.
We should do a breakout session or something. Next year.
I'm going to try and meet with everyone. It's going to be tough, but I'm going to try and pick everyone's brains. So
awesome. Yeah.
So what about you? Anything else?
Man, I'm just looking to hopefully just relax a little bit, in the downtime, but with Upwork and remote development and hiring my video editor and producing podcasts. I mean, this is very little time for downtime, but man, it's just beautiful here.
I'm definitely excited for the conference. I'm excited to come back and have shoot the follow up to this and.
Did we say so? You're reserving your opinion, I was going to ask you, is it worth joining the CSIA?
Sure, and I'm going to reserve opinion. Okay, my experience with CSIA up to this point has been it's been worth it completely, for many reasons. When people ask me whether or not they should join, my answer, I've been reserving response to that primarily because I want to see this year at the conference. Is Jose going to recommend that integrators start transitioning their business from an Industry 3.0 to an Industry 4.0 model? Based on initial conversations that we've had today, I have a feeling that is part of what he will be saying tomorrow in the conference. So,
well, we look forward to it, and make sure you guys follow along, hit that like button, share it if you found it interesting, and we'll see you guys in the next podcast.
And I'll have a beer for all you guys.
Peace.
See ya. All right, cool, man. I like this setup way